The screech of tires shattered the quiet morning, followed by a sickening thud that made everyone on the street freeze, but not Arman Qureshi. He didn't think, didn't hesitate, didn't even remember the interview he had been preparing for weeks. All he saw was a woman lying motionless on the road, her handbag spilled open, her phone cracked beside her, and a growing crowd that watched but didn't move. Before the story unfolds any further, if you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Echoes of Stories. Your support helps bring more real, meaningful stories like this to life. Arman had already been running late. His shirt was slightly wrinkled, his tie loosely knotted, and his worn-out shoes carried the weight of too many responsibilities. Being a single father to 7-year-old Meher meant mornings were never easy. He had woken up before sunrise, packed her lunch, braided her hair, clumsily, but with care, and dropped her at school with a promise that tonight would be different. Tonight, he had told her, they might finally celebrate. Because if he got this job, everything would change. The interview was for a senior position at a well-known firm, one that could pull them out of years of financial struggle. Rent notices, overdue bills, and quiet nights pretending everything was okay had become a normal part of their lives. This job was not just an opportunity, it was survival. And yet, in that moment, standing in the middle of chaos, none of that mattered. Arman pushed through the crowd, kneeling beside the injured woman. Her breathing was shallow, her forehead bruised, and her arm twisted unnaturally. People murmured around him, some recording, others whispering, but no one stepped forward. He removed his jacket, gently placing it under her head, his hands trembling but determined. He called for help, flagged down a passing car, and with the assistance of a reluctant driver, managed to lift her into the back seat. The hospital wasn't far, but every second felt like a lifetime. Arman kept glancing at her, whispering words she couldn't hear, urging her to hold on. His phone buzzed repeatedly, unknown numbers, likely from the interview panel, but he ignored them. His world had narrowed to the fragile breath of a stranger. At the hospital, he stayed. He filled out forms, spoke to doctors, and waited anxiously as they rushed her into emergency care. Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the waiting room floor. Arman sat there, his tie now loosened, his shirt stained, his dreams quietly slipping away with each ticking second. He thought of Meher. He thought of the interview. He thought of what he had just given up. But strangely, there was no regret, only a quiet exhaustion and a hope that the woman would survive. By the time a doctor finally approached him, the day had already begun to fade. The woman was stable, he said. She had suffered a concussion and a fractured arm, but she would recover. Relief washed over Arman, heavy and overwhelming. He thanked the doctor, stood up slowly, and prepared to leave, unsure of what came next. He didn't expect anyone to stop him. But a voice called out, soft yet firm, asking him to wait. The woman he had saved was awake. Arman hesitated before stepping into the room. She looked different now, cleaned up, bandaged, but still pale. Her eyes met his, searching, as if trying to understand the man who had chosen her life over his own future. There was a long silence between them, filled with unspoken questions and quiet gratitude. Arman simply nodded, offering a small, tired smile, and assured her she was safe. He didn't stay long. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't even leave his full name. He just walked away. The next few days were harder than he had expected. The missed interview had consequences. Calls went unanswered. Opportunities vanished. Reality returned with a harshness that felt almost unfair. Arman tried to stay strong for Meher, hiding his disappointment behind gentle smiles and bedtime stories. But late at night, when the world was quiet, the weight of his decision pressed heavily on his chest. Had he done the right thing? He never said it out loud, but the question lingered. 3 days later, everything changed. It was a normal afternoon. Arman was at home, fixing a broken chair while Meher colored beside him. The doorbell rang, unexpected and unfamiliar. He opened the door to find a woman standing there, elegant, composed, and unmistakably the same person he had carried into the hospital. But she looked different now. Stronger. Confident. And not alone. Behind her stood two formally dressed individuals, one holding a folder, the other observing quietly. Arman was confused, unsure of what was happening. He invited them in, his small home suddenly feeling even smaller under their presence. The woman introduced herself, not just as someone he had saved, but as the CEO of the very company where he had missed his interview. The room fell silent. Arman blinked, trying to process the words. His mind raced, connecting dots he hadn't even realized existed. The missed calls. The urgency. The lost opportunity. And now, this. She explained everything calmly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. She had been on her way to that same interview panel meeting when the accident happened. She had insisted on reviewing candidates personally that day. And then, everything went dark, until she woke up to learn that a stranger had chosen her life over his own chance. She had asked for his name. She had searched for him. And now, she had found him. Arman didn't know what to say. He stood there, humbled, overwhelmed, unsure if this was real or just a fleeting moment of kindness returning in an unexpected form. She looked around his home, noticing the worn furniture, the quiet dignity, the small drawings on the walls. She saw Meher, shyly peeking from behind a chair, and something in her expression softened. She spoke again, this time not as a CEO, but as someone deeply moved. She said that skills could be taught, experience could be gained, but character, true character, was rare. And she had seen it in him, not in a resume, but in a moment that mattered most. Then she offered him the job. Not out of obligation, not out of gratitude, but because she believed he deserved it. Arman felt something break inside him, not in pain, but in relief. Years of struggle, of silent sacrifices, of doing the right thing even when it cost him everything, it all came rushing back in that single moment. He accepted, not with excitement, but with quiet gratitude. Life didn't change overnight, but it began to shift. Slowly, steadily, things improved. Meher smiled more. The house felt lighter. And Arman carried with him a lesson that would stay forever, that sometimes, the biggest risks lead to the most unexpected rewards. Now, if this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Stories like this remind us that kindness still exists, even in the most uncertain moments. And before we reach the end, here's something special. Comment the word hope if you believe that doing the right thing always finds its way back. Because in a world that often rewards speed and success, Arman chose compassion. And in doing so, he didn't just save a life, he changed his own. The truth is, we all face moments like this. Moments where we have to choose between what's easy and what's right. And while the outcome isn't always this extraordinary, the impact is always real. Because kindness, even when it goes unseen, leaves a mark. And sometimes, just sometimes, it comes back when you need it most.